Um, Hi everyone, this is David from Funderbeam. We are joined today with Madis Moore. He's the lead investor of Siidrikoda, and this is also the third time leading his campaign. We will have Sulev Nimman joining us very shortly, but in the meantime we'll focus on Madis. Welcome here.
Nice to be here, thank you.
So basically, like I've mentioned before, this is the third time leading a campaign on Funderbeam. So I wanted to start by asking you, first of all, how did you end up on Funderbeam? How did you become a lead investor? And more importantly, how did you meet Siidrikoda and what made you lead their campaign?
I've been investing since 2005, and I had invested before finding out about Funderbeam. I had invested into Antler bikes, the one I helped raise before, and the Cider-House as well. So I knew about the companies, and like 1.5 or 2 years ago, I found out about Funderbeam as well. I did some small.
You are the last party in the conference.
So over here.
Did some small investments on Funderbeam, and like when Ampler wanted to raise a new round to get more cash to export, then Funderbeam was their choice, and I volunteered to be their lead investor, and like that's how it got started.
It all started. And now, so after that, then there was Frank Convertible, and now we're here with Siidrikoda. So how is Siidrikoda being in a completely different business? How did you get to meet the company, and what made you decide to participate in their campaign?
I had invested into them before, and I really like their product. It's like really good cider, and I think it deserves more attention, or it deserves to be exported to and enjoyed by a lot more people. And I have been in contact with Sulev for 3 years already. I have followed the progress of the company, and I really like his entrepreneurship and how he has been really bootstrapping this company, like getting so much done with so little resources. Like he's been cash flow positive for the last 2 years at least, and so I think that it doesn't have so much risks associated with it. So I feel like really confident about the company and going forward.
Yeah, so the company is also raising quite a significant amount. We're talking here between 800,000 to 1 million, roughly. How do you see, I mean, so far you've had a pretty good traction in terms of the campaign. How do you see this basically progressing, and what do you think about the last basic 150K that needs to be raised?
Well, it's definitely going to be a challenge, but as I guess it's the biggest Estonian campaign of that kind. But we like challenges, and it's interesting for us also to introduce the company to a lot more people, and to get it into the newspapers, and it's doable.
Okay.
It's a big challenge, but we're confident that we'll manage to get it.
Okay. So can you tell us a bit more detail maybe about the terms of the campaign, in terms of what the company is offering for the investors that will raise the funds?
The company is valued at 2.4 million pre-money, and they're raising from 885,000 to 1.25 million, and so it's, I don't remember the exact numbers, you can look it up in the terms, but 25 to 36, 37%. And and in 3 years we're confident that the company will be in good enough position to start paying dividends as well. That's going to be 7% from the current valuation, and
Okay. And so just as a reminder, everyone, if you have any questions, you can leave them if you're on Join Me right now. Please feel free to type your questions. there, and Madis will be happy to answer. Also, we'll have Sulev joining us very quickly. If you're watching us through Facebook, you can also leave your questions there, and we can also include these in the Q&A section. So, how, being that, is this the first time that you are sort of participating in such an industry that is in the alcohol business and the cider brewery, or is this something that has been on your mind?
Oh yeah, it's first time for me to be involved in alcohol industry.
Okay, and how does it compare maybe to the tech and other investments that you have made before?
There's similarities and differences, of course, but it's a interesting new challenge, and yeah, pretty much the same. Like you have to have a good product or service to sell to people, and like Siidrikoda ciders are like really good, and they help to like have a good time, and yeah. It's good to like help such good products or services to grow and get more traction, and hopefully the investors will profit also in the process.
Absolutely, and so looking from an investor's perspective, or perhaps even a lead investor's perspective, what do you see? How do you see Siidrikoda distinguishing itself as basically a cider brewery, but also as a good investment for investors? Or what is unique about it, perhaps, that you think others don't have?
Well, Cider-House is the first Estonian Cider-House to have his own apple orchard. They planted the first trees already in 2006. They are doing quite a lot of research to get the tastes exactly right, to get them perfect. They're together with Tallinn University of Technology scientists working on them, and they have been really good, and they have won international cider awards as well. And
so they have had actually multiple awards, right? I mean,
yeah,
when we had the pre-party here, I know they brought 2 of their ciders. One of them had won gold.
Yeah, Mimicry won gold last year, and the year before, Sada and Snob won silver.
So these are basically, the idea here is that, I mean, Siidrikoda being Estonian, but also the target here is actually to expand into other countries, basically around Europe. But is that even beyond that?
Yeah, they have had some inquiries from countries further away, also like Taiwan and Hong Kong. And, so yeah, the aim is not only Europe. We'll start from here, but they will also expand into other product categories as well. The goal is to have a puree line up and running. That is. They have already researched these products, and the input materials, the leftover from cider pressing, the company already has it, and it will come at 0 cost. So it's a really nice additional profit opportunity as well for the company and the investors.
Okay. We have Sulev, who will join us very shortly. As a brief reminder, again, if anyone new has joined, feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and we'll be happy to address these. But Sulev, welcome to the Q&A session.
Yes, hello.
So we've been talking with Madis basically about how he got introduced. First of all, this is the 3rd campaign that he's had on the platform, and now shifting from kind of a tech aspect to cider brewery, and how basically what led him to make the decision. But we also wanted to hear about you, about what is the story behind Siidrikoda? How did this get started?
Oh yeah, it's a long story. I try to be frank and short. um, uh, we, we, our family, we lived abroad and we wanted to return back to Estonia. Me and my wife, we both were uh, uh, working in international organization, and our kids, we have 4 kids in our family. We felt like they become kind of rootless and cosmopolitan, and we would like them to go to Estonian school and in their native tongue, and then we decided that okay, we need to do something to return back to Estonia, and then we just looked at different opportunities, what can be done, and then we decided that we will not return just to Tallinn, to capital, which has been our hometown since childhood, but we would like to rather go to the countryside. Some people sometimes have such idealistic views on life, but then we decided that okay, we need to do something which keeps us really there. So that we decided to plant some trees, and my wife is economist by background and I'm ecologist by background, so we as combined these 2 experiences and knowledges, then we did some analysis and found that we have to plant some trees, but we have to really plant abundant, big number of trees to make it economically feasible. And then our last place where we lived before returning back to Estonia, it was this southwestern corner of Finland. We lived in Turku, and we saw some very nice apple orchards on archipelago in Finland, and then we a little bit studied closer what people are doing there and how they really manage, and what is their profit side, and then we realized that they mainly grow edible apples and they are not really processing them. And then we felt like there must be a better way of doing it, and then when a little bit studying more about what can be done with apples, we realized that probably there will be an interesting wave of apple cider, which was already at the beginning of a trend to be more popular. And then we decided that okay, we plant trees for apple cider processing.
Mm-hmm. And now there isn't enough trees. Now you're basically growing even more to increase production. That's correct?
Yes. At the moment we have 8,000 trees, which produce about 200 tons of apples, and it is enough right now. Even if we increase our production tenfold, it's still enough. But from there on, we have to start buying apples. And fortunately, we know from where we get them. We did a very thorough research of different apple varieties in this whole region, not just Estonian apples, but also our neighboring countries, the whole region, Finnish, Russian, Latvian, Lithuanian, Belarusian apple varieties, and we found really good ones, especially good ones for cider production.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that there was and I think still is a big opportunity for cider production in Estonia and abroad. But more importantly, you also, something that's a bit overlooked is the byproducts that can be produced from apple, from the apple byproduct essentially. Mm-hmm. Could you talk about more about that and how this will also tie into your growth following this investment?
Yes, when we began pressing juice and making cider, then we found rather soon that there is about 30 to 40% of a pulp which we throw away as a bio waste, and again working together with the Food and Fermentation Competence Center here in Tallinn, then we did some analysis of those remnants, of those leftovers, and we found that all valuable ingredients, vitamins, bio ingredients, and especially a lot of fiber will remain in that part which we throw away. And then we began to really look at what can be done, and there were different ways of either to dry it or to freeze it or to make it some kind of a powder or whatever. So, but the most promising way was to homogenize it again and make it as a puree and fill pouches with such puree.
So it's an edible puree?
Yes, yes, and we also looked at what could be the target groups for such where there is a need for such a product, and then we saw that actually this it can be a global product. It can be much even easier to sell globally as compared to cider, which is alcohol, and not all cultures and nations accept alcohol as a product. So, but this other production line is in a way very promising, because those emerging markets, especially China, India, Arab countries, they are looking. Their parents are looking for a better food, for quality food for their young and children. And we found that there's a real niche for us, because our apples come from poor nature, and we are not really spraying them heavily or doing any bad things to them. So we eat them self, and we can advise to others also to eat them freely.
Mm-hmm. One of the things from your campaign also that you mentioned is that besides obviously the production that you make, you also provide consultation, or rather aim to provide training for industries which are in the same business. How will that work? What are your plans from that perspective?
There are many interesting ways. If I look at my calendar right now, I have already several invitations to make to have some classes for people, trainings. I did it last Saturday. The next will be on the 14th of June, where I give lectures and tell how cider is made, how apple can be used for different purposes, and we also do some sensory analysis with the groups of people, and this is an additional cash flow for the business. And also what we do is we practically every year have had, and it's growing, other companies coming to us and ask for services. Either we fill their products into the bottles, we carbonate them, we do different mixtures of different juices, we can deep freeze, we can do many things in our site and in our production premises.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. We have a few questions from our audience actually. So people want to know, what is your background prior to opening the brewery, and basically what did you do before then?
My background is quite diverse. I am an ecologist. I studied biology in Tartu University, graduated from there. Then I became an oceanographer. I was many times on Atlantic Ocean and the Baltic Sea and even the Greenland Sea, Caribbean. So this was my background, and I lived that very interesting life, I would say, until we got children, and then I realized that it is probably not the best way of doing my career. I also, when Estonia became independent, I was invited to the Foreign Service because before that I did my PhD at Stockholm University, and there was a Rio conference as first international forum where Estonia as independent country participated on a state level and head of state level even. So there was a limited number of people in the Foreign Service at that time who were really knowledgeable and experienced in global problems. And after that, former Foreign Minister Jan Manitski sent me to Permanent Mission of Estonia to United Nations. So I served as a diplomat in UN, a Permanent Mission of Estonia, and it was a really interesting time. I got my I would say huge international experience. Living in New York was very, very special, like a burning candle from two ends. and when and I married also there. My wife studied at Columbia University at that time. When she got pregnant, then we decided that okay, it's time to return to Europe. We felt like Europe is a better place for families with children, and at some point I left foreign service. It became more routine. I don't like much routine. So, and some business people, expatriates, Estonians, hired me to establish an investment company in Tallinn. I was then head of that group, and we did some different investment projects, real estate development projects, until we felt like it's time again to leave Estonia and go abroad and be more involved in development aid projects, which were more like UN type of a work. Mm-hmm. So it's a very, very diverse,
quite colorful history, and that eventually led you to open your own orchard.
Yeah, but at some point you feel like you need to really
sort of settle down.
Settle down is the right expression. Yes.
Yeah. So we have actually a few more questions about the product itself. One of the questions is, have you developed your own unique yeast strain through harvesting and reuse, and how have you achieved the unique flavors that you have?
I should here to express my gratitude to my partners at Food and Fermentation Competence Center. There has been really fruitful cooperation since 2009. So we have studied all different apple varieties, different juices which are pressed from different apple varieties, and their features, their characters after storing them in storage. And so we did a really thorough research on a raw material and what can be done from that. So this laboratory in Tallinn, in Academia Street, this is really well equipped. So what we can do there, we can practically analyze whatever comes into our mind. Mm-hmm. So what really needs for a good flavor, for a good color, for a good taste. So we can combine different varieties, different juices, different flavors in a way that the final product is of a high quality and really good and enjoyable by the people.
Mm-hmm. Some of your ciders, we were just talking with Madis earlier that you've won multiple awards internationally, mm-hmm. and how did that come to you? Was it something that came as a surprise, or what was the experience basically getting to that point?
At the beginning it was of course a surprise, and we called it beginner's luck. So we couldn't really believe when we first time participated in this competition 2016. Two of our ciders were awarded with a silver medal, and it was really a nice surprise. And after that, we decided to participate one more time, just to feel if it was really just one occasion, or are our products really regularly so good as they are. And the second time, then that one cider we sent to this competition won even gold. So then we felt that okay, probably we are that good as they say we are.
Are there any particular regions which you've seen from your sales? You're mostly focusing in Estonia, right? But could you talk about basically the other regions where you have exported, and whether there's some specific which particularly are interested in products that you have?
First of all, we do our products a bit differently as compared to traditional methods in France and UK. So there are like two schools, two different schools. UK, they do a bit differently than in France. What is our competitive advantage is we work a lot with the different yeasts, and we've seen that as long as Frenchmen and Englishmen, what they say is they categorize apples. They say that there are bittersweet apples and bitter sharp apples, and so we are of the opinion, and our short experience tells us that it is only half of the game. Mm-hmm. So the second half is metabolism of yeasts, and so we have added this another half to the picture, and this makes our products quite different from other ciders in the scene, and we have got really nice compliments from experts who are really from the countries with a long tradition, and what they say, our ciders they are different, and but they are good, different in a good sense, mm-hmm. and this is what we like about our stuff.
Mm-hmm. So there's undoubtedly, obviously, one of the biggest contributing factors is the talent and the team that you have at Siidrikoda. That's how you develop your product.
First, we began with a team of laboratory guys. So, so if someone says that a good company should normally start in someone's garage, mm-hmm. then we say that our company got its starting point in the laboratory, lab. We are lab guys, and then from that laboratory, at some point we were able to scale it to the more or semi-industrial level, mm-hmm. and from that on, we think we are able to scale it even further to a really big level.
To grow and basically get beyond the sun.
And what I also say to some of the investors who have asked me how do we do and what do we do, that we are also not just a brewery, we are like a food tech institution. We develop this technology ourselves for our own purposes. Some people have asked if this technology we work out for cider production can be commercialized even, and we think that it can be also commercialized at some point. But at the moment it is so nice that we will not probably tell so openly how we do it.
So talking about basically your interest now and how this will move forward, what is the ultimate vision that you have for Siidrikoda, and how do you plan on executing this?
Our vision is to little bit copy this BrewDog model, but maybe not exactly. But it is for the cider world, for the cider culture, and I think it is possible. Maybe we are not that punk as they say that they are. We are kind of a lab and academic guys with some understanding of business as well.
It's a good point about BrewDog. I mean, the craft brewery industry has been very popular in recent years, especially it's getting more and more popular. How do you see, well, the cider business is, especially when it comes to craft cider, is sort of behind this. Say, for example, I think 10 years behind this industry. How do you think this will reflect or compare, sort of when comparing it to the craft beer industry?
Cider is a more sophisticated product as compared to the beer. So you need to know a little more. It cannot be made from the tap water. So with the beer, you copy a recipe from internet and use the water as a base, and most probably you end up with a drinkable product if you follow the recipe nicely. With the cider, it is a bit more difficult because it depends on a different raw material. It is not water, it is the juice. And the juice comes from different apples which are grown in a different environment, which are stored in the different environment, which have to be processed or pressed in the right time, and there are many small things which affect the end result. So cider is more complicated. That means there is a less competition. It is not so heavily competitive as, for example, we see how many small beer breweries there are. Cider breweries are probably less than 10, and only 3-4 are probably sustainable out of them. So it at the beginning it may look like a fun and easy and we just can do it, but after a couple of years you may get tired because you need to be quite persistent in what you're doing.
And this, I believe, I mean, it's also something that's very seasonal in terms of every year, basically.
Yes, yes, and you depend on the raw material, and we already see that some other groups, they look for apples, they look for rhubarb, they try to find and buy stuff from different countries because there is a shortage already, which is not the case for us. So we are well equipped.
So I want to jump a bit into the campaign itself, and this is the funds that you're raising, and maybe also a bit about the terms of the campaign. So you mentioned obviously it's an equity sort of campaign, but also you will have a dividend policy, and you're also giving sort of a bit of a sweetener to the campaign. Could you talk a bit about basically what you are offering for the investment that you're raising?
Yes, we have been in negotiations with few strategic investors, and they have their requirements, and it has been tough, and we have come to some conclusion which motivates investors to put some money in. So we are offering from the third year on, we offer also stable dividend payment out of our cash flow, and also as a candy, we think which is really attractive is that since Calvados type of brandy will be distilled out of cider, so we can do it. In our new premises there will be a wine cellar, a beautiful one, well designed, and I know that this Mapri construction company is able to build it. They have said it, that they can do it, and that means we can put some distilled alcohol into barrels and keep them there for 10 to 20 years. And we also have shake hand with third generation Calvados producer from Normandy in France. They will be our mentors, our teachers. They produce really extremely high quality Calvados in France, exceptional. So we have selected really a good partner for that, and they say that since our cider is so different, so unique, they think that it is possible to create a product which might be also exceptional. And there is actually in the region, there is in Åland Islands, there is one distillery. The owner unfortunately was killed in accident, but the product they produced there for several years, it was called Olvados, which is kind of interesting brand of Calvados, which they are not allowed to use the same Calvados, but they renamed it Olvados, and it was also extremely high quality product. So I know those apples, I know the methods what they use for that, and it is very promising.
Now, talking a bit from the other side,
I can mention also that vineyard. It's a Tudor. If someone would like to see, look at the Tudor vineyard in Åland Islands.
Okay, we will keep actually. Just for anyone who's joining a bit late, or well, if someone sees this later, so we have this live stream being recorded, so you can also find it later. We'll link it in the newsletter, and you can also find it on our YouTube and Facebook page. I want to talk a bit about the other side of the spectrum. That is sort of what are the risks that you see? How do you plan on mitigating these and overcoming them?
The biggest risk for our raw material supply is weather. So weather conditions are really varying, and we have seen 2 storm events which can really break some of our apple trees down, and there is also a risk of getting some more southern and tropical diseases to our region together with climate change. So we have to be really prepared for such cases where you might not get any apples or relatively few apples as compared to the previous years. So there is always that risk that there will not be enough pollination, or it has been really dry or cold, or a winter without snow, or whatever. There are so many different risks that you can be hit by. But from the business point of view, we are diversifying our products so that we are not only dependent on a cider market or a puree market. So we have all this consultancy business included into our portfolio, and also it is possible to visit our center, and people can have their barrels stored in our wine cellar as their pension funds. So there are different ways of diversifying and managing these risks, I think.
Excellent. So where can people actually try your ciders and your products? Here in Estonia, or maybe even abroad?
Yes, the easiest way to try them is to go to the either Selver or Coop or Maxima retail chains and find them on the shelves. So they are there. Practically all our products are available there. Also some specialized shops like SIP shop here in Telliskivi, also SIP shop in Tartu, then different well-recognized cafeterias like Felin in Viljandi, Retro in Kuressaare, Finest Beach Hotel restaurant in Pärnu, dirham, port, cafeteria.
So it's quite accessible.
Yes, yes, many places. Nice environments. They sell our ciders.
So
Otepää.
I'll also mention, so in terms of the funds that you're raising, there's obviously information on the platform, but could you explain a bit how these will be used? One of the things is growing your premises, but how will that basically work?
How those finances will be used? Most of it will be used for increasing our capacity for export. That means we build a new Cider-House together with necessary equipment, bigger fermentation tanks, more automatic processing lines, filling, labeling, so it becomes more automatic. And also we will use money for processing that apple pulp for a different line of products. And there is also some cash for export development. We will participate in different fairs. We already, for example, we participate this year in Food Taipei on Taiwan. So we also look for Mediterranean markets. They are unique in many ways because there is no excise tax for alcohol, which is very good for us, and people from Western European countries, from UK, from France, Germany, they visit Croatia, Slovenia. They have become really popular target countries, and they would like to have good quality cider in pubs and cafeterias. And at the moment there are no Croatian or Slovenian cideries who really can deliver a good quality products. So this is a relatively empty market at the moment. So we are already partnering up with for example, Croatian company who has a really good distribution in their market, and they have agreed to add one more tap for cider from us.
Mm-hmm. That's quite cool.
Yes, sounds cool to me too.
Absolutely. So I'll ask one more time, like if anyone else has any questions that you'd like to ask Sulev, please feel free to write these down in the chat. From my side, I would like to close with my last question, and that is, having being very familiar with the different countries, talking about France, UK, and also places like Croatia. If you would restart the business, go back to when you started the business, would you actually pick a different country? Like, what would you change? So how has this experience basically changed the way you would start all over again?
I wouldn't do much differently. I think it is very important that you are strong in your domestic market first. So it's a good testing ground, and if you know that people really enjoy your products at home, at your home country, then there shouldn't be any limitations for other people from other countries to do the same. So I think we wouldn't do much differently. It has been a slow start, but it pays. Now we see that we are doing just fine with our step-by-step growing and a good preparation work. So we have such saying that you go at the beginning slow, but you will be first in the finish.
Well, congratulations on getting there. Well, heading, I guess, in that direction, even growing.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Sulev. Thank you for being here. Thank you also, Madis, for being here with us, and thank you everyone for joining. Just as a reminder, obviously you will be accessible on the discussion section. If you have any questions, you can write them there, and Sulev and Madis will be happy to answer your questions.
We have our head cider maker also, Ryan, here.
And
so-
we have also, yes, Ryan
Yeah.
with us. And some
And
more
if someone
people.
has a specific question about how to make a good quality cider, Ryan is doing his PhD on the subject cider, so he is probably the most knowledgeable about cider making here in Estonia right now.
Excellent. Well, it's been great to have you. Thank you very much, and see you next time.
Thank you.